take your throw pillow and set it to the side, and bring your chair onto your mat. If you also have a hard chair like mine, you're welcome to grab a blanket of sorts just to make it a little bit more cushiony. We're going to begin on our backs with our calves on the seat of the chair. So you're going to lie on your back. You're going to have your butt pretty close to the chair, and you're going to start with your calves on the seat. I just need to make one more adjustment, so you'll see me do that in a moment. Okay. Set your throw pillow off to the side or keep it on the seat of the chair. With one side hip close to the seat of the chair, you're going to lower down onto your outside elbow. You're going to lower all the way down and then sweep your feet up to the seat of the chair. And you're going to intentionally let your knees drop a little bit wide and cross one ankle over the other. Now, if your throw pillow is still within arm's reach, what you can do, if you wish, is you can slide it under your hips or under your heels. Cross one ankle over the other, and just get a sense of deepening in the hip sockets. Hands to the belly. We're going to be here for about 5 breaths. In my core flow practices, we always start with connected breath, getting in touch with our diaphragm and the movement of the respiratory diaphragm, the movement of the rib cage, the movement of the abdomen. A strong core is nothing if it is not also a supple core. If the core can't also soften and fully relax. Let's take one more slow, expansive breath here. Switch sides. Opposite ankle over. You might notice that your body seems to need one of these positions more than the other position, and if that's the case, then go back to the first one if you need. You can place your hands on your abdomen like I have, or you could also put one hand on your chest or your solar plexus. For the purposes of this practice today, invite breath in and out through the nose, simply, quietly. And invite expansion at the back of the body, not just the front. Enjoy one more luxurious breath here in this position. And we'll slowly start to move, maybe shifting the throw pillow out of the way or leaving it where it is. And you're going to bring your arms by your sides. I like a little palms up position here. Flex your feet, dig your heels in, and you'll start to feel your hamstrings, the muscles at the back of your thighs, kick in. And you might just do an isometric, meaning that you're not really going to lift up off the floor that much. If this is too much for you with your knees beyond 90 degrees as mine are, my knees are a little closer to my chest than my hips, then walk your feet out a little bit more, try 90 degrees. And if that's still too much for you, go further out, maybe even full calf on the chair and lift up just an inch or two. And I'm going to wiggle back a little bit so that I can actually lift up somewhere in an in-between position, so this 90-degree position. Hands to the floor, they're going to give me a light amount of assistance and bridge up and down. Think of this as a massage for the upper back, even as we're strengthening the back of the legs. You'll notice you may not go very high. If your seat's a little higher than mine, you might go higher than that. And let's do 2 more of these. Good. Draw your knees to your chest and rock a little side to side. We're going to use the chair in some creative ways tonight to start to mimic different things that we need to do on the yoga mat. But for now, let's get the chair out of the way. So roll to one side, set your throw pillow off to one side, and let's go ahead and set the chair off to one side. Come back down to your back. And this time, come into cactus arms with your arms, or if you've got plenty of space beside you, you can also straighten out your arms, palms down or palms up. Palms up is going to be just a little more activating of the back, upper back. You're going to bring your legs together and really glue them together. Maybe start with your hands in between and try to pull the knees apart from one another, but squeeze your inner thighs in so much that you can't do that. So hands into cactus, maybe even behind your head, maybe out straight to the side, spread your toes, and just drift your legs 45 degrees to one side. If I go any further, my outside, farthest from the camera body, is starting to pull up off the floor. So I'm just pausing before that happens. Come back through to center and take it over to the other side. Keep a soft expression on the face. Head back to the first side, and we're going to add on. Draw the knees up towards that same side elbow, and then slide them down like you're tracing a line. Draw the knees up towards, and slide. Maybe straighten the legs. Draw the knees up toward, and slide. And last one, draw the knees up toward, and slide. Knees bend, over to the other side. Just about a 45-degree turn. You're going to draw the knees up to the same side elbow and then straighten them out. Knees up and straighten them out. So my kneecaps and the tops of my feet are pointed 45 degrees to the right. I'm almost touching, I'm kind of skimming my curtain here. Stay connected to breath. And last 2. Back through to center. Reach your legs up to the sky, hands behind the head, if this works for you. If not, please bring your arms by your side, or the most supportive position is most likely going to be hands under your bum. So this is another good favorite of mine, the robot arms. Connect to breath. On the exhale, drive the elbows down, get it just a touch of momentum, and float the hips up off the floor. Notice that you don't have to have straight legs to do this. You can do this with your knees bent. Exhale. It's as if we're going into shoulder stand, but then we change our mind. Make sure that your toes are not going much past your eyes. It's okay if they go a little bit past, but the idea is you want to try to keep them from going into plow. Both on the way up and on the way down. Last one, as you come down, lower one leg just to hover over the floor. So by hover, it's probably going to be 30 degrees off the floor, so maybe more than a hover, maybe to the height of that chair you were using before. Reach your arms up. And so I've got my right leg stretched out. I've got my left leg to the sky, and I'm going to actually just lift head and upper body, reach to touch my right foot while my left arm comes by my ear. Inhale down, and then just make this a flow. If you need to keep your head on the floor for support of your neck, then focus more on front hip points up and finding that hovering leg. If you're going to be lifting up, really flatten the back. Exhale. And last round after this. First leg, second leg. Come back, draw your knees to your chest, and rock a little side to side. Settle your feet down, and we're going to wiggle the feet a little bit further forward. So I want you to let your belly come up to the sky. We don't do this a whole lot in core flow, but it's a good way to begin to access the front abdominal muscles. So right now, we're stretching out the front abdominal muscles and accessing the back trunk muscles. Exhale and feel the difference. Front hip up, hips up, ribs down. Ribs flare, front hips flare. Ribs down, front hips down. Now, we're going to try to do that in the sky. So ribs up, elbows by your side, arms by your side. Come into your little back bending kind of bridge where I'm really sticking my belly up towards the sky. And then we're going to suction ribs down, hip points up, hug the thighs together. Try to get a glutes and core straight line bridge. Setu Bandhasana. Back bend, you may even dip your pelvis, core. Back bend and core. I almost feel like I'm in a music video doing this. Have a little fun. Don't worry about what it looks like. Ribs stick up. Squeeze the thighs to an imaginary midliner block. Awesome. Lower and lower. Draw your knees to your chest. Rock a little side to side. And we're going to come up to a seated position. So I'm actually going to offer two different options. So the chair, even if your chair is not like the sturdiest chair, which mine is not, it's still going to offer us a little bit of something to push into, so long as it's stuck on the sticky mat. So there we go. Mine's on the sticky mat. Shh. Okay. Now you can use that Pilates ball, which turns out I never brought over here, or you can use your throw pillow. So if you need it, we're going to be rocking back, and you're going to be feeling this a little bit on maybe your tailbone. So the throw pillow is really nice to have underneath if that's a bothersome spot for you. So you're going to press the base of your toes onto the legs, the front legs of the chair. Again, make sure that it's not going to move, but you're not going to have that much weight in it anyway. Heart lifts up. Now, since we're getting into our core, it's not really about keeping the chest lifted so much. We're going to allow ourselves to rock back. And you might pause here, you might pause here, you might pause almost all the way to the ground, right? But whatever you do, you're going to find a stopping point. Inhale up. Exhale, curl. Inhale up. Exhale, curl. Inhale up and open. Reach it back. Inhale up, open. Careful of your surroundings. Reach it back. Inhale and reach. Inhale and reach. Inhale and reach. Inhale and reach. Do a couple more. And that will be our last one. Cross out your shins. Bring our forearms onto the seat of the chair. Again, just give it a little push around. Make sure that it's not going to move. And curl your toes under. So I want you to snuggle your knees in so they're right underneath your hips. And drive your forearms into the seat of the chair. Again, make sure it doesn't topple. And you're going to lift your knees. 1 to 2 inches off the floor. Start to shift a little forward back. And settle down. So we're getting into warming up the shoulder blades. Elbows wide, drive the knuckles, and rock a little forward back. And lower. Let's do one more. Drive, round, and rock. Good. We'll get into the hips a little by request. Knee down, other leg opens to the side and down. Other leg opens and down. We're going to add to this just a little bit. So the forearms that are on the chair, get a sense that, try not to tip the chair as I just did, get a sense that you're trying to drag the forearms to you, closer to you. You want to make sure that they are, without tipping again, that you're getting the core to kick in and not just hanging here. So you have to round your upper back a little, round your belly a little, suction in the belly a little, and then digging it in. See if you can stay absolutely stationary in your core as your leg opens and closes. Now the thing about this is you want to make sure that you're not doing a whole lot of lift, like excess lifting, and that you're not twisting yourself to lift that leg higher. Everything stays still. Keep the navel no further than the middle of your standing leg. Last two. Bring that shin parallel to the floor if you can. That might have been 3. And then we'll take it to the other side. So stationary, stable, and secure. And then float your other leg. This is a great alternative to being on our hands, which sometimes can happen a little excess in flow practices and even in core practices. Last one, hover and lower. Grab a hold of the edge of the seat of the chair or stay here. So this is going to be require a little bit more flexibility on your forearms and give you a little bit more space if your hands are on the seat of the chair. You're going to reach the outside leg up, forward, tap your elbow, and then hover the foot. Don't set it down on the floor. Tap the elbow, back, and down. Other side. Shift, lift, tap, hover, tap, lift, down. Stay connected. This is the same muscular actions that are required of us stepping the foot up between the hands without actually setting the foot down on the ground. Hover. For this last round, we're going to do a nice 5-second hold, okay? So shift, lift, tap the elbow, hover for 5, 4, 3, stay connected, draw it back up, and down. Other side, I think we'll feel this one tomorrow. And up, knee to elbow, hover the foot, don't let it touch down. Imagine you're in control of all of this from your core. Let's call that 5 seconds, take it back, and down, and then just stretch it out. We just did a lot on our outer legs. So we're going to release the chair for just a minute, bring your hands down to the ground. And you can actually cross your right knee behind your left. This is one of the entryways into Gomukhasana pose. But today we're just going to rock back kind of halfway there. We'll call it half Gomukhasana. If you prefer to drop your hips all the way to the ground between your feet, totally fine. I like this range of motion just a little bit better. And I like the rocking and the dynamic nature of it. Let's take it to the other side. Tuck, rock, feet are spread apart from one another. Now, the chair can be used or not used for this next action. So I'm going to go ahead and use the chair. You can be just on your forearm or your hand on the floor, or you can have your forearm on the chair. So from here, we're coming into kind of an entry position for side plank. On the knee, on the forearm. Lift your top leg and then take that leg behind you, like you're trying to kick something behind you. But I want to encourage you to drop your ribs in, so stay knitted together at the lowest ribs in front. Leg back, knit the ribs, reach your opposite arm by your ear, and then reach the two in different directions. Diagonal is what's happening. Arm by the ear, leg floats, elbow taps. Reach, spin, reach, tap. Reach, spin, reach, tap. Reach and spin, reach and tap, and then we've got one more. Breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. And then set the foot down to the ground, straighten your bottom leg, float it up. Side plank with top foot in front. And then this is a nice one for the outer hip, another way to get into it. Just settle the hip down to the ground. So bottom leg is straight. I'm actually kind of rolling as much as I can onto the side of that hip. Let's take another breath here. And then we'll take it to the other side. So, for visual purposes, I've got some heavy lifting to do, and we'll take it to the other side. So find your introductory position for side plank on your knees. Straighten out your top leg. Again, you're welcome to have your hand on the floor here. You're going to float your top leg, lean it back behind you a little bit, and reach your arm by your ear. Don't lose the ribs. The bottom ribs, imagine you've got a little internal corset and you're just tying up the little ribbon, the satin ribbon right there between the ribs. So reach, lean the leg back, lean the arm front. So you're connecting to outer hip stability and obliques. Elbow to knee. Reach, twist, back. Elbow to knee. Reach, twist, and back. Connect to breath. If you want to go slower than me, that's okay. I have one request. Make sure that you don't sag in the shoulder right here that's supporting you. And last one. Draw it in. Set your foot. Come into a side plank. Proper side plank with the top foot kind of rooting down in front of you for a little added bonus. And then settle it down. So I needed to bend my bottom knee to get into the position, but once I'm there, I feel pretty confident straightening that bottom leg and just rolling onto the side of that hip. All right. We're going to do something, and let's just hope that my chair is sturdy enough for this. So we all know plank. We all know forearm plank. Grab onto the seat of your chair, rest your forearms on the chair. I've actually got my fingers curled around the side for a little added support. And I want you to straighten one leg back and then the other. I think I've got this. You're going to draw one knee towards that same side elbow and back. Other knee and round your spine a little bit and back. First, round and back, round and back. Now, lower your knees down to the ground. And let's do the same thing we did earlier in bridge pose. Sag the belly, knit the ribs in front to the front hip points. Sag, really arching our spine, and knit the ribs to the front hip points. This is lumbar flexion. This is lumbar extension or back bend. We want to maintain either neutral or lumbar flexion, right? So in lumbar flexion, I would say if you emphasize lumbar flexion, you're more likely to get neutral. So bring it in, bring it in. Make sure your butt doesn't go up, right? That's the version where the butt goes up. Draw it in, draw it in. Let your spine round. Draw it in, draw it in, draw it in. It's like the slowest mountain climbers ever. And then please bring one foot slow motion, hover to the outside of the front seat of the chair, and then settle the foot down. Slowly rise up, drop through your hips. Inhale, crescent lunge. Exhale, open out into cactus arms. Bring the forearms to touch one another, and then draw your elbows into your abdomen, again rounding your spine. Inhale up, cactus. Exhale, forearms touch, curl. Squeeze the legs. Inhale up, cactus. Heart reaches. Exhale, forearms touch, curl. 2 more. Up, up, curl, curl, up, up, curl, curl. Set the hands. Curl your hands around. We're going right back into regular plank. Hover the foot, step it back. Lower down onto your forearms. And then draw the other knee in. Hover the foot and step it down. Straight back leg, float the chest. Crescent lunge. I actually have to move a little bit here so I can move into my cactus arms. So from here, float the chest. Exhale, curl and curl. Inhale up, open. Exhale, forearms touch, elbows curl in. Connect, 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 and curl. Lift, open, squeeze, curl. Lift, open, squeeze, and curl. So, set the hands either side of this chair. Step it back, find plank. Roll to your tiptoes, lower down part way, half chaturanga. It's actually full chaturanga if you think about it, but we're only using about half of our body weight here. By the way, no shame in putting your knees down on the ground here either. Let your elbows go out as needed or keep them in. Because you're probably gripping the chair like I am, I recommend just letting the elbows go wherever feels natural, more or less. So, chaturanga and straighten. Exhale, chaturanga and straighten. And then one last chaturanga. Straighten, pull the heart through, downward facing dog. Shake out your head. Pedal out your feet. And let's set the chair off to the side. Go ahead and come into downward facing dog on the mat. In your downward facing dog, I want there to be a strong and active reach of the arm. So let me put this another way. Allow your shoulder blade to upwardly rotate. Allow the upper trapezius to actually get closer to your neck. It's attached to your neck. There's nothing wrong with a muscle going through its full length, with the shoulder blade going through its full range of motion. So allow that to happen, push the ground away, and I promise you it will connect to your core stronger. When we pull the shoulders down the back in down dog, we sag in the middle. I don't know if you can see these club moves that I'm doing, but the pulling the shoulders away contracts your lats, which allows your chest to drop. It sags your middle. It brings you into lumbar extension or thoracolumbar extension. So when you push, you get stronger. Your core stays more connected. Have some space between your feet. Rise to your tiptoes. Turn all your toes in one direction. Come to the outside and inside of your foot and shift forward. Spun plank. Inhale back. Tiptoes other side and shift. If you need to do this on your forearms, totally fine. Or go back to the seat of the chair, totally fine. Keep shifting, connecting to breath, moving at a pace that feels true to you. Just remember which side you started on. Keep your bottom ribs connected to the top of your pelvis in front. And we've got one more round each side. Legs are strong. Arms are pushing. Take it. Final side. Back to center. Rest in child's pose. Make a little fist or stack of fists for your forehead here. Just take a couple of breaths. We're going to play with a concept that I think is really, really powerful that we've already touched on a little bit in practice. Come up to a seated position, and it can really look like whatever seated position is comfortable for you. If sitting on your heels is too much for your knees, you can use your throw pillow here. And I want you to put one hand on your abdomen and a fist between your knees. Squeeze your legs together and just try to feel if you notice anything happening in your abdomen. It might be subtle, but in theory, what we're going to feel is a little bit of co-contraction. That's also known as irradiation. And that irradiation is really just the idea that if you make a fist, the rest of your arm also, those muscles also turn on. So when you squeeze your legs together, it has an added bonus effect of engaging your core. When you strengthen your inner thighs, it has an added bonus of engaging your core. So we're going to lie on our side now with this throw pillow underneath the hip, more or less. Let's start with the top foot in front at the long edge of the yoga mat and the bottom leg in line with the torso. You can be on your forearm like me, or if you need to, rest your head. So top hand, rest lightly on the floor, ribs draw in, front hip points up. Exhale, lift your leg. Inhale down. Simple action. We use the inner thigh of the back leg in Warrior 2, in Trikonasana, in a lot of poses to add stability. If you want to see if your abdomen is turned on here, take your top hand and put it on your belly. When you really let your leg relax, what happens to the muscles of the abdominal wall? And when you really rev it up, what happens? Just to play, I think we have one or two more of these. Now, lengthen, lower, take a moment to relax. Inner thigh work can be a lot, depending. But one of the things to know about the hips and the inner thighs is that it actually, you need to strengthen in a huge plethora of angles, because the hip does so many beautiful combinations of movement. So we're going to keep playing with this idea. Now, this foot's going to be behind, and this foot's going to be at about a 45-degree angle forward. So you're probably going to see the sole of my foot here. So go ahead and lift and lower, and lift and lower. If you don't need this guy underneath your hip, you don't have to have it there. It's just I want to be sensitive to the fact that for a lot of people it's not very pleasant to lie straight on the side, right on the floor. And secondly, having a little bit of a booster underneath your hip here essentially gives your leg further to go. See if you can lift it just a touch higher without your pelvis rocking. You'll notice that I brought my top hand to the top of my pelvis. And let's play with two more of these. All right, give it a rest. Sometimes when it's the outer hip, we do these little loose fists. I think we can do the same here. This will be an experiment. Make a loose fist and see if you can give that inner thigh muscle a little bit of a resting break. We've got one more, but it won't be as many, I promise you. Again, feel free to have the pillow underneath your hip here. So now the leg's going to go straight out in front. I have a chair, a folded chair here, and you're going to lift and lower. Lift and lower. Stay connected to breath. This one you might feel your obliques, even your intercostals, the muscles between your ribs, more than ever. So play with that. And this is what students get when they ask me for hip work, basically. Lots of strengthening, lots of stabilizing. Bend through this knee, take a moment on your belly, rest your forehead on anything you got, and then just swish your feet side to side. You'll notice, if you pay attention, that most of the rotation happening here is happening in my low back. So the next thing I like to do is squeeze the bum, glue the pelvis down to the floor, just keep one knee bent, and just rotate from that one hip. Try to keep everything else stable. You might even put a hand on your low back or on your bum just to make sure that the pelvis, the bony part's not moving above the leg. Give it the old switcheroo on the other side for about 5 or 10 passes. As always, we are students of our physical presence, our mental presence, our emotional presence, etc., our subtle, intuitive presence, hopefully. So pay attention if one side feels different from the other. We're going to lie on the side again. So grab your throw pillow if you'd like and place it under the side hip. Top foot rests close to the long edge of the mat. If your hip does this, it can be down here, it doesn't matter. It's just added stability. And the top hand can be on the floor. So you can do a couple different things with the top hand before we get started. You can push down, which might help to activate your core. Or you can even, if you feel like you have a good sense of where your pelvis is in space and it's not rocking back and forth, you can put your hand on your abdomen. So we're going to straighten the bottom leg and just lift and lower. And I'm trying to decide if I like this pillow there or not. I think I'm going to put it under the head. So go ahead and lift and lower. Lift and lower. And maybe connect it, the movement that is, to your breath. Feel the line of power all the way to your chest. Do your best to keep the neck relaxed here, even though some neck muscles will probably turn on. And we got 1 or 2 more. We'll go ahead and switch. Now the legs 45 degrees forward, rise and lower. Whether you do this with your toe pointed or foot flexed, doesn't matter to me. The foot flexed will help with keeping the knee straight, if you want to get your quads in on this too. The toe pointed might give you a little bit more freedom at the back of the legs if your hamstrings are a bit tight, because we're asking these inner hamstrings to kick in as well. See if you can lift up just a touch higher. Feel a fatigue coming on. Maybe add a little bonus hold at the top or slow down your lowering if you don't quite feel fatigued. If you don't, that's amazing, and I bow down to you. And then coming into our third position, and this is a trickier one, so I'm going to straighten out my top leg. And again, you can have the pillow either under the side waist to distribute some of the weight or directly under the hip, which will give your leg a little extra mileage as it lowers down and as it lifts up for that matter. Back of the neck long, ribs in. Everything activates. from your obliques, transversus abdominis, rectus abdominis, and of course, all the muscles of the inner thigh. Last one. Lift, lower, let your knee bend, make a loose fist, and let's experiment with this little shiatsu type inspired massage on the inner thigh. All right, so now onto one of my favorite moves. Rise up, adjust your hair as needed, and just set your hand down to the floor beside you. We're going to grab the throw pillow and place it between the heels. This is called basking seal, and the movement that you want to create is from the pelvis. It's going to look like it's from the legs, but it's not this, and it's not this. It's actually, pay attention to the bottom of my shirt here, it's actually tilting, okay? I didn't give myself a lot of room when I straightened my arm, so I'll actually have a little bit more room by coming onto my forearm. So it's up to you which one you want to do, but I'm looking to bring the top rib here to the top of my pelvis. Now it's just a few inches, a few centimeters either way, but I'm shrinking and releasing. And as you release, you might also add the arm by your ear. Shrink, make sure the bottom hem of your shirt or the top line of the pants comes onto a diagonal. Exhale and curl. Exhale and curl. Add the elbow to your side. And last two. Rise it up. Switch sides. And squeezing your inner ankles into the throw pillow. Come onto your hand with the elbow straight or to your forearm, whatever feels like it's got enough space for you. And you're connecting top ribs to the top of the pelvis, so just shrinking those together. So it's really a little sassy action here. As you guys keep going, I'm going to show you what I'm doing, what it would look like in an upright. It's like, oh, that didn't quite work. It's a little of this, right? But it's active, so it's a shrinking and a releasing, a shrinking and a releasing. I think we have a few more to do. Take your time. So shrink, release, add the elbow to it, release, shrink, and release. And the last two, we might have done a few more on this side, excuse me. And settle your throw pillow off to the side, come to downward facing dog, and just pedal it out a little bit. Rise to your tiptoes. Start to round your spine. Look at your navel. Push the ground away. Inhale up and back, downward facing dog. Don't lose the push. Rise to your tiptoes. Start to round the spine. Shift a little closer to plank without looking forward. Still looking at your belly. Start to feel your glutes squeeze into one another. Inhale, rise up and back, downward facing dog. We've got one more of these. Rise to your tiptoes, toes spread. Front hip points up, kneecaps lifted. Connect front ribs to the front of the pelvis. Find your way into plank. Settle your feet wide. Come into the outside of one leg, the inside of the other. Outside of the other leg, inside of the other. It's really our feet. Move with breath, move with intention. You're always welcome to do all of this on your knees. And one more time, each side. Make your way to neutral. Roll to your tiptoes, optional knees down, lower through chaturanga, and then lift chest, legs, baby locust pose. Release. Before going back to down dog, we're going to do a little bit more on the abdomen. Drive your elbows down into the ground, coming into Sphinx pose. Now, typically, I taught Sphinx with the forearms parallel to one another, which is a great version. It's also nice to try this diamond shape version, so try that out. Inhale, pull the chest forward, and then exhale, drive your pelvis down, but lift as much of your abdomen and your t-shirt off the floor as possible. Inhale, pull the heart. Look over one shoulder, over the other, back through center, exhale, curl. Inhale, pull the heart, add a little rotation. Exhale, drive the elbows back towards the hips. Pull up as much of your abdomen, but not your pelvis, off the floor as possible. Inhale, reach. This time as you look over your left shoulder, kind of bend that knee, get a little sassy with it, and then look over your other shoulder, like you're at the beach, just sunning. This is what people do, right? I have no idea. Back and forth. And last time. Back through to center. Drive. Lift as much of your t-shirt off the floor as you can. As much of the skin of your abdomen off the floor as you can. Wiggle your elbows as needed. Curl your toes. Float into forearm plank. And then find your way to dolphin pose, downward facing dog. Also known as dolphin facing dog. I just made that up. Shift a little right and left. Notice here that the same actions of your shoulders of pushing into the ground are mandatory so that your head doesn't touch the floor. 2 more breaths. And then go ahead and settle to your knees. There's one last kind of hurrah that I want to do or play with today. It's really more of an experiment rather than a doing. It's a playful playful double dog dare. So we're going back to the chair. And again, if you have the ability to make your seat a little softer, that will feel more comfortable. We're going to lie on our side, and I just happen to have a chair where I can stick my bottom leg through. So if yours is like that, great. And if not, maybe bring your bottom knee into this position, so knee bent. The top leg is going to go on the chair. Now, I recommend really getting as much of this leg on the chair as you can. So a little bit, an inch or two above the knee if you can. And feel free to use your throw pillow to bring you up a little bit more. Okay. If you've got the ability to straighten out the bottom leg, do it. So hopefully you guys can see the contraption I've gotten myself into. You're going to be on your forearm or on your hand, and you're going to lift up. So it's going to take a lot of inner thigh strength, a lot of scapular stability on this side. Feel free, if that's a lot for you, to take a rest and just to go back in and back out of that. Totally fine. If you're here and you're like, okay, that's hard but good, then you're going to lift your bottom leg. And you're going to lower and lift and lower and lift. Either way, let's just do 3 more on this side. You can also do something kind of in between, where you lift and lower this leg here. When you're ready, we're going to release to the other side. Forgive me, I think I'm going to have my back to you for a moment. And again, bottom leg may go completely through the chair. I'm recommending top leg just above the knee touches the chair. The most ergonomic way for me to do that is to use my throw pillow like a little booster seat. And now I kind of have it on there in a firm grip, and I'm going to lift and lift and lower. Wherever you are, whether you're settling your hips or just settling this bottom leg, come into an easeful quality in your breathing, in your mind, the skin of the face. It's never too early to start thinking about Shavasana. And last one, settle. And then come onto your back, but stay close to your chair, okay? We're going to come back to our original position in just a moment. But first, draw your knees to your chest. Use the chair if you'd like to dig your heels in. Lift your hips up and over to the left. Drop your knees to the right. Take a couple of breaths. Inhale back through to center. Bring your heels onto the chair, seat of the chair. Lift up, sweep your hips to the other side so we get that little extra hamstring activation. And then drop your knees to the second side. Align in your spine. Allow your eyelids to be heavy. Breath easy. Moving back through to center. Legs up. We did a lot of inner thigh work today. So we are going to bring the soles of the feet together. Catch hold of the ankles and just rock gently to the right and to the left. If you'd like, you can stretch one leg to the side and then the other if you've got the space. You're welcome, as we prepare for Shavasana, to just stretch flat out onto your back, or if you liked the way we began our practice, you can cushion the seat of your chair somehow and cross one ankle over the other. This allows the hips to go into a position of gentle external rotation. If you hate legs up the wall, you might still like this one, actually. And if for any reason it just doesn't work for you to keep the leg crossed over like this, then just bring the legs, the feet side by side. You can even sometimes use the back of the chair, like I am, putting my feet through the back of the chair to try and offer myself an alternative that will stabilize my legs so that they can almost flop out. Here we go. That's my position. Make your final adjustments. Feel free to switch the ankle that is on top. Invite a heaviness in your bones. Allow your breath to be easy. Notice some spaciousness between the top teeth and the bottom teeth. Notice the weight on the right side of the pelvis and the left side of the pelvis. Starting to slowly deepen your breath. Invite a little bit of movement in your fingers and in your toes. Gently draw your knees to your chest, taking your time to unwind. As slowly as you'd like, roll over to one side and rise up to a comfortable seated position. Reach around for your throw pillow. We'll bring one hand to the chest, one hand to the belly. Let's do our best to remember why we are here. We're here to drop into greater awareness, greater presence, greater svadhyaya, self-study, self-inquiry, so that we can be of seva or service in all of our actions in the world around us. My prayer for this time together is that each of us shows up in more ways to be more supportive, more loving, more inclusive, more equitable in all of our actions, in all of the rest of our lives. Thank you for being here. Namaste.